Hi, we are live. Hi, this is William Ramsey. Welcome to William Ramsey Investigates. On today's show, I have a very special guest. He comes to us all the way from Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur. He'll be my first guest from there. Maybe the closest guest I've had to that is somebody in Thailand. But his name is Dr. Mathew Maavak. His last name is spelled Maavak. And he came to my attention from my friend Hervoy Morich, who operates Geopolitics and Empire. I listen to his show all the time, and he said, "I've got a guest for you on this topic." And I usually don't do a lot of fiction books, but these types of fiction books aren't really that fictional. And I've done other ones about AI and kind of a technocracy and things like that, which are ostensibly fiction. I've had recent guests on my show, the Collins brothers, and I asked them, which is a really relevant question: is science fiction really fiction? And the answer may be no. It's closer to some kind of hybrid or something. But we gestalt things, we simplify things, we put things in genres so we can understand them. But if you're watching this on YouTube, one of my 3 YouTube channels, which I got back in the last couple months, 2-3 months, or X, or Rumble, or Rockfin, you'll see the cover of his book, The Electric Reckoning. And the timing is really something else, because I think we set this up last year. Today is just January 8th, 2026. But in that time, so much has changed. And even Germany has had like electricity problems, something that's really a first world country. I mean, these are like countries, even in the US, is devolving. It's not ascending. And there's a lot of themes in this book that I'm familiar with. And also the timing, where a lot of things are happening internationally, geopolitically, but he can talk more about that. So, Dr. Mathew Maavak, welcome to the show.
Thank you. So,
for people who haven't heard your name, for people who don't know your work, didn't listen to Geopolitics and Empire, maybe you can talk about your background, talk about your work. I know you've done, according to your biography on Amazon, you've done a lot of reading and geopolitical investigating, but then it led you to write this fictional book. Maybe you can just talk about your background leading up to the publication of Electronic Reckoning, which happened, I think, in 2025. I think in November.
November.
Right?
Yeah. Okay. So, I was born here, and I grew up here, and I was not. I really didn't fit in, from my primary school to my secondary school. And it was while I was in secondary school that I realized that I was an autodidact. So I just daydream through my classes and learn maths and physics on my own. In fact, I treated school as a playground, a place to have fun, to the extent possible. And I went abroad. I did my pre-university in India because there was a lot of uh, what shall I say, racial discrimination here in Malaysia. There were two politicians who were competing with each other, and they were pushing racial affirmative action to the limit. So I had to go abroad, and I experienced a bit of India. In fact, a lot of India, and I know the Indian society inside out. Then later I came back to Malaysia. I joined up as a journalist. That was my very first job. And I realized that what you call journalism today is basically stenography. You just,
Oh,
take
I
down
know.
notes. You just take down notes from whatever VIP or big shot, or, like a pompous uh, uh, idiot says, and that's your job. And we used to get deflated. I guess most of my colleagues are contemporaries, most of whom I've forgotten. In fact, all of whom I've forgotten by now. They just stuck on. They reconcile themselves to the fact that this is my life. I'll just collect my salary and so on. Me, on the other hand, I had big ambitions. And I used to get victimized for that. victimized for using words that supposedly the ordinary man could not understand. I mean, for Pete's sake, that's what the dictionary is for. Unless the press, raises the standards of the language, who else is going to do that? So like, yeah, I used to get bullied, in my workplace. But at the same time, it took an unexpected turn, or it had a how should I call it, a positive ricochet effect, in the sense that I began to withdraw, and I began to what do you call that, focus, chart my own path, carve my own path by any means possible. So while I was working for the Malaysian press, I used to submit articles to online publications abroad. I mean, these were quite respectable publications, like I can't remember the names, but my very first article was placed alongside one Nobel Prize laureate. I think his name was Gunter Green. He's a German.
Sounds
And then,
familiar. Yeah.
yeah, I think he's a poet or something. And then there were a few other academics from MIT and so on. And I thought, like, if I'm good enough to be included alongside their works, then why not? That was 23 years ago. So, like, initially, I had a center left bias because, like, they produced the most potent arguments about the discrepancies involving 9/11 and so on. Uh, but after Obama came to power, what do you call that? The center left, like, virtually slid its mask, and I got disillusioned with that. And actually, I don't have an ideology. I just subscribe to logic, and 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 so, like, I kept writing, and uh, I my first big break at the mainstream level came from CCTV of China. They invited me to be a columnist or a contributor to their Panview OPAT section, and it was great. I really had a good experience. And if anyone tells me that China is censorious or there's no freedom or expression, I'll tell them that's not really true, because I was able to express my thoughts and my ideas more freely in the Chinese media than in the Malaysian media. In the Malaysian media, I was not even given a chance. And so, like, I had a good stint there. And then Sputnik of Russia and later RT also invited me to contribute. A lot of people may think, or may be tempted to think, that it's due to an ideological bias, or they're trying to use me as a propaganda tool. But I am pretty much ideologically blind. Uh, if a platform provides me, you know, uh, with space to publish my ideas, I'm all game. I don't care, whether it's right wing, left wing, and so on. But after a while, I realized that there are a lot of things that I just could not publish. For instance, there is a what should I say, a congruence of censorship. I mean, for want of a better phrase, like, for instance, like, if I wanted to write about the coronavirus or the corona psychosis, both the Russian media and the Western media didn't like that. They wouldn't want that. They the Russian media wouldn't publish that, except in passing. So after a while, I got disillusioned, and like, I just like, and that's when I decided, like, why not try, like, fictionalizing, all the background uh, plots that are going on in the world, and at least, if you depict it as fiction, you may not get censored. So
Right. Right. It's fake. It's fake. It's not a real story.
Yeah, it's not a real story,
Right.
Yeah,
You've read, I mean, you've posted a lot of stuff on your Substack too, right? So all these
yeah,
posts that are um, nonfiction, right? So you talk about that.
yeah. I do, and yeah, Substack is one outlet where you can express yourself freely, and hopefully it stays like that for the considerable future. Though I'm not really sanguine about it. I know Elon Musk tried to buy Substack numerous times.
Is that right? How much was he offering?
I'm not sure. It was
Hmm.
a substantial amount, but the owners, for some reason, decided not to sell it.
It
Like
has an independent character to it. It really still does. It's really one of the few places
yeah,
that
it
you can't be
does.
censored. I mean, can you imagine? Like, I put up a WordPress thing and censored it. Like, they took it down. Like, I never thought I would be taken down. And I was just writing, like, stuff about the occult, like exposing the occult. And it's just like, whatever.
Yeah, the
You're strange.
the problem is like once you're blacklisted by any of this, like big tech firms, uh, yeah, you will not. I let's rephrase it again. I believe there's a fusion center connecting all these big tech platforms, and if you're blacklisted by one of them, you're blacklisted by all.
Right. That's right.
You know, and I'm very certain there exists such a fusion center, especially in the United States. That's why, like,
Oh, no question. Yeah.
yeah,
Then it's very secretive. The fusion centers are very powerful and were set up under George Bush. So they're still in effect. People still get spied on, targeted individuals. The average
yeah,
person
exactly,
who's like a normie kind of going along with the system would never experience that. But people who actually question the system or think that or know it's corrupt. I mean, here in the States, it's the corruption's horrific. It's just like trillions of dollars missing. And
yeah,
I mean, it's incredible because this system of control was set up and it allowed these people to just literally take millions and millions of dollars away from the taxpayers and transport them by briefcase out of the country, and they did nothing. So what did the fusion centers worth? That we got looted for trillions of dollars. What a
yeah,
joke! Like it's a
exactly.
total joke. It's almost like 1984, but like a dark comedy, like a Monty Python skit or
And
something.
here's an experience I've had. I used to be very Anglo-centric or Anglophilic, right up to 2003. Like that was when I made that was when I visited the United States for the first time, and I was held up by the U.S. immigration, and they told me like we like there was an inquiry about you from the Department of Justice. And I was wondering what the hell did I do, like and I suspect they have this. I mean, they do have this these millions of hyenas and parasites who act as informants, and these guys are not doing their job. What they do is like if they want like these are malevolent creatures, and if they don't like you, they'll flag you up as someone who's subversive to the
Absolutely.
Anglo-American deep state. So
Yeah. It's
at the end
just
of the
like
day,
Soviet Union. They just
yeah,
would like
exactly,
rat out people they didn't like. The whole
yeah,
thing is
exactly.
like in Eastern Europe, if you remember the story of East Germany, like 1 out of 6 citizens in East Germany was an informant. Would like
Yeah,
so they would like deliberately rat out people who were if they were like there was some kind of love triangle or a
exactly.
business competitor, they would just come up with some reason to rat them out. I think it's in the States too, for
Yeah.
sure. For sure.
So
And
that was
everybody
a
has a file. I'll let you know. Like, even I'm a lawyer. I've never committed a crime. Like, maybe I don't even have a speeding ticket. They
yeah.
still collect information on all of us, dossiers and all that stuff. I know that they've done that to me for a fact. So I think it's for a digital dossier will follow you around your life like your fake persona.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's really crazy.
So,
It's dystopian.
exactly. So after that bad experience, I began to be more critical of U.S. policies and Western policies, uh, and then it just snowballed, and uh, and it it brings back it ties in with what's happening in the world today in terms of blackouts and brownouts. You see, when when deep states hire yes men, those who follow orders, and parasites who leech off the system, you're not gonna get talent that can maintain the system or
Right.
improvise the system.
Right.
So when like in Germany, when you need someone, to anticipate, risk to the system, to the power system, you won't have them because they only want yes men. And there are various types of patronage systems right now that only reward, those who are part of the patronage system. Before, it had to do with secret societies, Freemasonry and so on. But now, there are patronage systems that are based on, all kinds of, guilds and, informal ties and so on. And it and basically it comes under nepotism and, cronyism. And therefore we will not have the talent to maintain the systems that we are riding on the crest right now, whether it's AI, whether it's power generation, whether it's maintenance of nuclear power. And that is scary, actually. That's scary, actually, because the world is being run by morons.
Yeah. Yeah. In the
you know
States, they're just it's just replete with morons. It didn't used to be. They used to actually have the principles of competency was one of the chief elements to do your job. It's not anymore. Like
yeah,
you
exactly.
here,
Exactly.
something happened where, like, at least in LA, the entire Pacific Palisades burnt to a crisp. Like, you would think that somebody competent would use it, and then they just made excuses. It was an incredible event. Billions and billions of dollars gone. They're not rebuilding it, and it's just like you're like, wow, this is an incredibly profound event. In addition to all the fraud and all the trillions of stealing from the American people, but just like there's no desire for civilization at its basic root principles. You wouldn't believe it. I mean, it's unbelievable. Most people are like in a dull shock, like, wow, this is incredible. Like, where's the leadership? It's not there.
No, well, I'm not really conversant with this particular incident, but I'm not shocked either. In fact, I've been marinating in my own cynicism for far too long.
Yeah, well, it's the same thing happened in Maui at the city in Maui
Yeah,
burned
yeah.
to a crisp, but they haven't
Okay.
rebuilt it at all. There's
Yeah.
no their drive for culture or civilization. The impulse isn't there. It doesn't. That's what's crazy. Like, you live close to Singapore, where it's a first world country. I don't know what Malaysia's like. I've never been to Kuala Lumpur, but like that guy who started it, Dr. Kwok Lee or whatever his name, at least he runs a clean operation. Like, here in the States, it's gone. It didn't get I live in California, and San Francisco was one of the most beautiful cities ever. It's a complete dump now. Like, it's looks like a fourth world country. It's incredible. These
Yeah,
are incredible events. Yeah.
I've seen images of Skid Row, that are travel loggers, who walk around Skid Row,
Right.
with their
Yeah.
GoPro or something, and it's horrific. And what I mean, this is the irony of ironies. It straddles Silicon Valley.
Right. The wealthiest places on earth. I grew up, know what it's like. These things are very new within my lifetime. I've seen it
Yeah,
go down. And it used to be the Bay Area was this place of abundance and wealth. And it's just something just beyond dystopia has happened. It's
yeah. When I was a kid in the 70s, I think one of my relatives studied at Berkeley, and he would bring
that's where
back
I went to school. Yeah.
Brisbees and lots of California stuff. And California seemed like a paradise back then, and it probably was
It
compared to
was
what
it was a paradise. It's not anymore. It's not anymore.
It's not anymore. And like again, poor policies. I actually, let me rephrase that. I think deliberately, I would phrase it as deliberately engineered policies. You
Yeah,
see, what's happening right now is like they don't need the middle class anymore.
yeah.
I mean, the wealth gap is too wide to be bridged. So the oligarchs want to bail out, and they want to leave the rest, like out in the lurch. And you'll probably have a purge-like situation. The purge franchise.
Purge, right? 100%.
Like
They're purging
I
one of us now. I mean, they have
yeah,
no social. I mean, the interesting thing is that a lot of these oligarchs have benefited from these, these other people, whatever it is, they're working for them, they're buying
yeah,
their products or using their products, and in
yeah,
return, they have total contempt, if not hatred,
exactly,
and want you to die like nothing
exactly.
less. They're total
Ex-
scumbags, like Zuckerberg. I think Elon Musk is probably the only one with like a semblance of empathy, but these other guys, Teal, he's into depopulation, man. They had it on the most recent Bilderberg, agenda was talking about depopulation. So these guys are malevolent. I think something was in the news today where all of these guys in their yachts. You want to talk about a dystopia? They all went to St. Bart's in the Caribbean, and they put all their yachts together, and apparently a really nasty version of chlamydia was spread around. So all these guys are like engaged in illicit behavior, I guess, or yachting, which we can talk about that kind of elite corruption. But
yeah,
they all got sick, so feels like a little subtle kind of biblical. So, but you talk
yeah.
about in your book like these pandemics. I mean, you've obviously done your homework because I can see the elements in the book that rhyme with kind of real world current events. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like it was the Electric Reckoning is a compendium of many plots. In fact, like I was quite surprised at the turn each subsection took. It's like I was inspired, and I didn't want to hold back. Now, you needed to be careful in what you write. At the same time, you wouldn't want to hold back either. And thankfully, like I had a track record in writing. Of course, that was in nonfiction. It was about geopolitics and global risk. And I was able to like compress like the background plots that are unraveling, that are manifesting in the world right now, into a book. So like I'm quite happy with the results, but I'm not happy with Amazon. I mean, there are a couple of my Malaysian acquaintances wanted to get a copy of the book, but Amazon does not ship here. Amazon does not ship, books to many countries. For some reason, I cannot fathom. So I'm also looking for another publisher. Now they do, like I don't even have a copy of my own book. I ordered it.
Did you put
I
it up on Amazon US or did you put it up in Malaysia?
No, Amazon US. We don't have
That's why.
Amazon.
That's why. They have different rules for different things.
Yeah.
You could probably try to publish it and take it down and publish it through Kindle in Malaysia, and then they'd say it's some kind of international rule, shipping rule. I have to ship books to Canada. They can't order them through Amazon there. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Lulu faces such impediments. So I'm, like 23 years back, like I was in touch with this very famous agent who represented, some of the top, like household names in the world. And his firm is still around. He has passed on. So I'm thinking of approaching them and finally get a publisher and a proper publisher, because I really don't trust Amazon. And like considering the content of my books, which admittedly can be quite controversial, uh, I sometimes have this innate fear that it might be taken down. So like let's see how it goes. So the next the next few weeks, I'll have to decide, on my next approach. And I'm also working on my next book, which has to deal with a purge-like situation in the United States. This was my next book was supposed to be a historical Christian novel. All the plots are in my mind, but after noticing something, an undercurrent that's happening all across the world, I decided, like, let's focus on this first. And in my opinion, we're going to see an eruption of racial violence all across the world. I mean, the West has been importing incompatible
Yeah,
immigrants
right.
on a whole scale. You know, I mean, like, immigration has always happened, throughout history. If you look at the cradle of civilization, Mesopotamia, they were quite a mixed lot, and they generally took in the best. That's why they were able to build the you know
Right.
the first civilizations and so on. But what the United States is doing right now, especially the United States and this Anglophone countries, they are importing people with fraudulent backgrounds, fraudulent certificates, and who are really not fit for the job. Do you know that 95% of Indian programmers are not fit for the global marketplace? This this test was actually done by an Indian organization, and 95% of those surveyed, of those tested, I think there were about 30,000, Indian graduates surveyed. They found that they were not suited, for any meaningful IT jobs. But these are the guys, like, who are getting the H-1B visas in the United States. Now, what do you think will happen when you're entrusted with something like entrusted with maintaining a critical subsystem somewhere, whether
It's
it's a
going to degrade. It's already happening. Like things
yeah,
are
it's
going
already
down.
happening.
Like, yeah. Like the
Maybe
CEOs are stupid and the shareholders. They're like decreasing shareholder value by letting in morons whose certifications, like you can get a certificate for anything in India right now, whatever you
yeah,
want.
exactly. In
Pay
fact,
them online.
just a few days back, uh, the police in the state of Kerala managed to raid managed to confiscate 100,000 certificates,
Yeah.
and a lot of these certificates were used to, gain access to visas and employment abroad. And so, like, uh, you know, like, like, we might think, or the average person might think, like, this is a very dumb policy, but I think it's a very deliberate policy. They are engineering a purge-like situation,
Yeah, yeah. It's a
in
it's
the
a matter of warfare. It's
yeah.
warfare. It's just
So
not kinetic. It's not the same. They know that they can't win certain wars, so the other warfare is biological or demographic or migration warfare.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Regurgitating another pandemic would not work because there would be a lot of skeptics this time. So
And
why
more
not?
organized, like they all organized last time. So all these
Yeah,
people who didn't know anybody know each other. They know each other now because they've
exactly.
read their writing. Like I've communicated with people from Australia, Europe, like all
Yeah,
these people like synced up with Robert F. Kennedy and all that stuff. We did have a great win, I think today or yesterday. They here in the States, they drew back the that I don't call them the shot schedules from like 75 shots to 30 shots, which is a step in the right direction. Like there, I don't think any of the shots are really necessary. Actually, it's all about money. But yeah,
yeah,
no, they can't do certain things. It's interesting because that's kind of reflected in your book is these internal councils scheming to try to
yeah,
obtain their ends. Yeah.
yeah. In fact, like, there are plenty of control group examples which nullify the need for childhood vaccinations. For
Yeah.
instance, the Amish. Do you know that there are no cases of autism among the Amish or
Right.
HDD and so on? Now, some twerp from the mainstream media found three Amish kids with autism. But guess what? They were adopted kids. They were
Right.
vaccinated before. They were
Right.
vaccinated before, before they
Do you,
were
do you take
adopted.
over the media? You take over the world. If people rely on this crap media,
Yeah,
it's their own
exactly.
fault because the
Exactly.
alternate media has done a good job of compiling information and keeping kind of a ledger on all this information that they don't do it on TV. It comes into your consciousness and then leaves. So it's like people. I can't even believe people watch TV news anymore. It's just a complete
Oh
hostile
man,
joke. It's a hostile joke.
let me tell you, like I just can't watch. I used to watch, some stuff on YouTube, uh, light stuff. Sometimes, it's true crime, documentaries, like at least, it gets your mind, like it gets you thinking in a different direction, or some mystery, like stories, or watch a rerun of Grizzly Adams, which I loved as a kid, you know but I just can't watch YouTube anymore, and if I do, like click the YouTube app, I find myself just scrolling, zombie scrolling, because I can't find anything interesting. It's all junk.
The
It's all
amount of
junk.
ads they put out is crazy. It's heavily
Exactly.
censored too. It's heavily censored.
It's heavily censored, and once in a while they allow someone to post, like a ripped copy of a blockbuster just for a few days, because they need the ads. Like the algorithms, would be in a position to immediately detect, that there's a copyright infringement going on, and block it immediately. But they don't do that, because they need, like a horde of YouTube addicts, who will keep coming back in search of such movies. But like right now I'm at a stage where, like I just can't watch YouTube, anymore. I've tried watching a couple of movies lately, and after 10 minutes, no, I just jumped it.
A good
Like
place to watch it if you can go through is X. It doesn't seem to be as censored as as other places. And you can find
excellent.
full, yeah, Twitter. You can find full videos there. So it kind of has that early internet feel to it in some ways.
Yeah, X is a strange place. Uh,
Sure is.
it is a font of a lot of valuable information. In fact, the X search box was far superior. It still is far superior to Google search.
Yeah, yeah.
And you can retrieve, like articles or videos that, like you had watched or read, like a long time back. Whereas YouTube is just plain junk. uh, at the same time, X is a cauldron for rage bait. Oh
Yes.
man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
No.
once you start reading them, you get drawn to them,
People are
and
pissed, and that's how they get clicks too. Is like more anger.
yeah, and you
Yeah.
get drawn to it, and then you start testing, like how soon, will it be before I get kicked out? But no, I never got kicked out. I mean, I posted some, some potent, vehement, like a highly vitriolic stuff on X, and yet I've yet to be kicked out. Whereas a few years earlier, I I I raised some, scientific counterpoints to the vaccine, and I got kicked out.
Wow. Wow. I'm not
I
surprised.
can tell you one thing: there are just two things, that are highly taboo across the world and across all media platforms, except for the alternative media. One is the corona psychosis. I mean, that's what I call it. It's not a term I coined. It was coined by President Lukashenko of Belarusia, uh, a genius phrase. And the other one is Zionism. But X does provide leeway, where you can discuss, I mean, you can be pro-Palestinian, anti-Zionist to a great extent. And I'm actually wondering why this is allowed. I mean, Elon Musk is part of the PayPal mafia. He's indebted to Peter Thiel, and yet, like he's allowing this thing. So I believe, again, it comes back to that purge paradigm, the looming purge. Uh, what do you call that possibility? Where once the economy, let's say, we have a Black Thursday or a Black Tuesday incident. The stock market crashes and hyperinflation sets in. All the oligarchs have to do is sit back, rein in the police so that they don't, enforce laws, and then you will find, the rebels, so to speak, fighting and killing each other. So I think that's a very real possibility,
It's
down the
happened
line.
in the past. It's happened in the past.
Exactly.
In other multi-ethnic states. So, and it's actually happening right now in Syria, where the centralized government collapses and then people's old grudges take place. So right now they're just going and shooting Christians and Alawites. So a lot of these right-wing Islamicists, I guess what you call them, are killing other sects and things like that. Old gripes.
Yeah, just imagine, in 2000, how much we have regressed as a species, so to speak. In 2001, the whole world was supposedly united against Al Qaeda. Now Al Qaeda is in the White House, being
Right?
feted by the president. You know, the president of Syria, what's his name, Al Shara or something. He had a 10 million bounty on his head. I think that bounty was placed by either the CIA or the FBI, probably the CIA, but whatever, it was 10 million. But now, he was treated, as a, like a friend, like a distinguished guest at the White House, and the US is pouring money into his regime. And that's because he's probably a Mossad plant.
They
you know
they're engineered. Al Qaeda's always been engineered by external forces. They only go after other Muslims or
yeah,
Arabs.
yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
wow, that's a
I
huge
mean,
tell. Yeah.
name me once when all these Islamic jihadi outfits had actually attacked Israel. The Sunni ones, never, never. They never do that. Now, the Palestinians might do that, in retaliation, or if they are Hamas. Now, Hamas was created by Israel.
Right.
Lots of, former Israeli intelligence officers, and I think a few former prime ministers admitted that
They
on
admit it.
Israeli. Yeah,
Absolutely, they do.
they did that. So, I wouldn't trust Hamas, but at the same time, all this, Sunni jihadi outfits, they are all branches of the CIA and the Mossad. And that's not all. The Islamic world is not able to, despite, having lots of wealth, they are not able to counteract Israeli expansion in the Middle East. Zionist power, all because they have been totally subverted in many forms. I can tell you, I had a girlfriend, she was born in Las Vegas, and her parents worked in the casinos, and she would tell me, the number of Arab sheikhs and Muslim leaders who were so pious in their own countries, you know, like eh, you know, like visiting these joints, and their women were dressed like, well, they were slinkly, uh, they were dressed like tots. There were no hijabs and so on,
Right.
and the kind of things they did. Now, if they could be visibly seen, like visiting these establishments, don't you think foreign intelligence agencies would be doing, would you know like would not be monitoring? So these guys, they have, they are highly blackmailable.
Right.
The ascension to power and the ascension to the upper echelons of the academia and government were all tied to Western intelligence, were all dependent, were all facilitated by Western intelligence. So they can't, they can't come out and uh, and form, a potent anti-Zionist coalition, except in words, in cheap rhetoric. That's it, nothing more. So yeah, so the Islamic world will face its own reckoning in the coming years, and I might get in trouble for saying this, but it's the truth.
You're not Islamic though. That's kind of an odd thing. Like you're in Malaysia as a Christian, right? I don't think there's many Christians there. Is that correct?
Well, actually, there are Christians here. I think like close to 10% of Malaysians are Christians.
Which is
Uh,
the population there is what, 35 million?
it's about 34 million. Now, it is a very civilized country. Malaysians, Malaysia is one of the best places to live in. The brand of Islam that's followed here is very moderate, and so we get the best of many worlds in many ways. And I'm not saying it out of fear. It's a fact. Like Malaysians are polite. It's almost a developed state, a fully developed state. In fact, compared to San Francisco, we are way ahead of
I believe it.
in infrastructure. I mean, the kind of things we have here is just amazing. It's just that we cannot be included into the developed nations index because our salaries are not that high. But at the same time, our cost of living is not that high either. And I hope,
What's the average income for a family in American dollars? Do you know?
well, I really would not know because I really do not pay attention to Malaysian politics. But
Were
I
you
mean, you can.
raised as a Christian or are you a convert?
Actually, I belong to the oldest Christian community in the world. My parents are immigrants. My ancestry goes all the way to the Middle East, the first, followers of Jesus. And
So what church group are you from then?
originally, we were part of the Church of the East, and now, my parents, were Oriental Orthodox. Now there were two Orthodox groupings. One is the Eastern Orthodox, that would include the Russians, the Serbians, the Greeks, and so on. Then you have the Oriental Orthodox, which is mainly Middle Eastern, and there's also a branch in India. So these are very ancient, Christian communities. So
They go all the way back to the Middle East. You don't see a lot of them in the States. That's why. Like we're
yeah,
seeing more Orthodox, but you don't see a lot of these old kind of Oriental Orthodox.
actually, if you come across a Syrian Christian or a Middle Eastern Christian, he or she would be part of the Church of the East. They would have been part of the Church of the East at one time. So, I would even say they were the original Jews. There's no doubt about it. If you do the math, who were the first Christians? They were
one of
Jewish followers.
one of the apostles is rumored to have gone to, proselytize India, right? I mean, that's
Yeah. In fact, I belong to the broader St. Thomas Christian community of Malabar, which is a region in India, and my one side they are they are obsessed about their Semitic roots. On the on the other side, my maternal side, they claim to be descended from upper caste Brahmins and stuff like that. I try to stay away from these contentions, but it is a fact that we are descended from a very old ancient Christian community, and I'm going to write something. I'm going to publish something about that community this coming month in my Substack newsletter.
Yeah, I'll put a link to your Substack. Do you have to pay the jizya in Malaysia?
No, nothing of the sort. As I said, this is a very moderate Muslim nation. It's much more moderate, and modern than Dubai. Now, Dubai has more glitz, but they're still very traditional. Malaysia, on the other hand, we have been balancing tradition with what you call that, with modernity. So yeah, I really don't have, except for a time in the 1980s and early 1990s when there were, a couple of hotheads, hothead politicians, creating racial divides. uh, Malaysia, I mean, Malaysia has tempered down since then. So race harmony has been, improving, and you don't have, Muslims antagonizing minorities, nothing of the sort. Uh, in, and so yeah, it's a very peaceful country.
Um, Another question is, you've written about Charlie Kirk and that event. I mean, what's that effect to you? And has it resonated or reverberated to people in Malaysia in general?
Okay, to be frank, hardly anyone had heard of Charlie Kirk before the assassination. Now, even I was unaware that a person like him existed uh, until a week before his assassination. Suddenly, Charlie Kirk appeared, on Twitter, on X. Charlie Kirk this, Charlie Kirk that. And I was wondering who the hell was this guy? I'm familiar with personalities like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens. Once in a blue moon, I do watch a short clip of what they have to say. But Charlie Kirk, I've never heard of him. So when he was assassinated, I was suspicious because it seemed like a concerted agitprop. They were playing him up until the time, until the moment of its assassination and
Till September
thereafter.
10th. Yeah, September 10th.
Yeah, and also the behavior of his widow. I mean, like, seriously, it's unbelievable. I don't like to use this term because someone might misconstrue it, but she really reminds me of trailer trash.
Mm.
Seriously, the way she dresses, the way she talks, and like, it's like she emerged from the gutters. And I'm not going to mince words, about uh, whatever her name is. uh, it's a disgrace how a widow, I mean, that's not how a widow should behave.
Right, right.
A- and the whole thing, it reeked of a false flag. And there were so many discrepancies, there were so many, theories, that I just gave up. I just All I need to know is, America is headed for civil strife. This incident, was one of the inflection points.
Right. Very true.
wh-
I
One of
think.
the inflection points where, which will lead up to more civil strife ahead,
Yeah.
where, you have the libtards, making a lot of allegations. Then you have the wingnuts making a lot of allegations. Then you have the magatards, and the guy, who's watching all this, while retaining his logic and common sense. He needs, to step out of the way. He needs to find a safe place. It's just like in the purge movies. You lock yourself down. When the shit hits the fan, so to speak.
Right,
So
right.
yeah, yeah.
Your book, you have kind of like, I mean, a lot of it kind of, to me, it kind of elicits thoughts of, the WEF and Klaus Schwab and all these other characters. There is that kind of element there, but it is remarkable because you have this whole idea about this Project Domino, and we're seeing countries fall over and over again, like Syria, Iran could be falling, Gaza,
Yeah,
or Palestine, decapitation types of. You can see Charlie Kirk's death as a decapitation strike too, but it is
yeah, but
interesting how your book was kind of prescient about that.
Charlie Cook is just one individual.
Right.
However, I believe that we are headed towards a situation, a false flag situation, which may which may result in the deaths of countless millions worldwide. It it'll be I mean, it may even lead, to a massive depopulation event. You know, when when law and order does not exist anymore. Now, how can that happen? That's I can think of a few ways, but the easiest way for that to happen is to take down the utilities and to take down the communications grid. I mean, when you take down the utilities, when you take down electricity, the communications grid stops working. Even if you have backup, like batteries and so on, how long will it last? And when communication cease to exist, rumors spread far and wide. And and this is something people don't realize. One of the main restrainers of atavistic instincts in this world is the camera cell phone. Because if you behave like a jerk, or if you behave violently, you'll have a lot of people, like
Right.
suddenly, like sliding. I mean, like like taking out their cell phones and recording things. Now, in a world without electricity, just imagine, many, enraged individuals will realize, I'm not going to be, like videotaped on screen. I can do what I like. And furthermore, there's so much mayhem. They'll probably have to, like arrest half the population, in this country. So I believe the next false flag would be cyber polygon. Now I've not read, cyber polygon in detail, but at the same time, like I guess like the main themes are included in Electric Reckoning. It would be the cheapest, easiest way to induce, like a mayhem and possibly a drastic reduction in the global population.
I've talked to other guys who think the global population is going to drop by 90% because of like the destabilization. It's going to be incredible. So
Yeah,
hopefully that doesn't happen. But yeah, it doesn't take much. If you look at the past, if people don't get fed for 3 days, people revolt. That's what started the French Revolution and the Russian Revolution. People think
exactly,
these revolutionaries were the ones who started. They took advantage of the breakdown.
exactly.
That's what happened.
The same thing with the I mean it
So
with
take
the
away
Bolsheviks.
power or electricity. Yeah, the Bolsheviks took power, but even in Iran right now, they've shut down the internet, which some people rely on for a job or communication. So we'll see how that pans out. Like these are just
Well,
incredible events.
what in Iran, it's interesting because they need to identify who the troublemakers are. So they will need to shut down the internet for a few days. That I can relate to. Like
It's
it
a matter of
happens
state security. Yeah,
state security, because like those who are protesting, they are not protesting. I mean, there is a genuine grouse about hyperinflation and so on. And of course there's also, like a state mismanagement of resources and corruption and so on, but not to the extent uh where, like I mean just I mean it's so w- a lot of aspects of the so-called protests is just plain ridiculous. The Mossad even came out and, encouraged the people of Iran that we have our people in your midst. And don't you think that's going to backfire? That's the dumbest thing to say. Like it's as if the Israeli deep state want the Ayatollahs, to gain more credibility. Like I think Benjamin Netanyahu also came out and said, we are with you, we have our people, on the ground with you. That is bound to backfire. You should keep your mouth shut if you have,
right,
such,
right.
and you're also endangering Iranian assets who are working for the Mossad. So what kind of a message are you saying that all our assets, our foreign assets, are expendable? It does, like I mean that's pretty much, the Mossad's one of the Mossad's ethos, but it leaves a bad precedent. So like there's something really weird about that. Now, Iran also has has a severe water crisis, and that probably contributed to the inflation and so on. So like they will have to carry out a new infrastructure program, like to tap water from the Caspian Sea or something. But like I believe like that's how it started, with the water crisis, and the water crisis began, like during the 12-day war with Israel, and then it aggravated and so on. But Iran is a tough cookie, but it still like amazes me that every time Israel opens its mouth, it strengthens the hands of the Ayatollahs. Go back, I challenge anyone, go back and watch, and observe and read statements by Israeli leaders and and operatives. It's so provocative. They will drive the Iranians back to the folds of the back to the fold of the Ayatollahs.
Right.
It's weird.
Ayatollahs, the Chinese, and the Russians. I mean,
Yeah.
it's very strange because Israel's only 9 million people, like only 7 million Jews or 5 million, or like it's very strange to try to take down a country of 80 million people. It's like, or 93 million or something. Yeah, like it's a huge country. Like, wow, this is really something else. Like, but it's been done in the past. The U.S. overthrew Mossadegh in '53, I think. So
Yeah, but what a lot of this,
much different time. Yeah.
what a lot of this magatats, as I call them, I'm not going to mince words, okay? I'm really knackered in my mind, so like I will, it'll be quite difficult for me to use more diplomatic words, but a lot of these magatats think that Israel does not respect Iran. In fact, Israelis, Jewish people, they respect Persians a lot. They hold Persian kings in high esteem, and they are looking forward to the day where Israel and Persia can work together, because Israel's expansionist borders, from the Nile to the Euphrates, ends, way, before Iran.
Right.
So like they do not have a long, even like when viewed through a Talmudic lens, an expansionist Jewish lens, they do not have a beef with Persians. And this is something that many right-wing idiots in the US don't realize. Like uh, they they may have a problem with the Ayatollahs, but they don't have a problem with the Persians.
Right, it's a
And
different thing. This is an ancient civilization that predates Islam from the 8th century or whatever, 7th century. So,
in fact, in fact, it's an ancient civilization that predates modern Ashkenazi Jewry.
right.
Like to what extent Ashkenazis descended from the Jews of old? I would say very little, and that's the reason why ancestral DNA testing is banned in Israel. Now there are Mizrahi Jews who are like places like Yemen, and even India, who probably who are descended from the old Israelite slash Jewish line. In fact, I would have more Jewish like DNA in me than the average Ashkenazi. So again, like the Persians, I think, like do not recognize the Ashkenazis as being the like the rightful heirs of the what do you call that, the old Jewish line. So that's another problem they have to contend with. And also the daily barrage of accusations and recriminations. I mean, remember the Bondi Beach massacre? Immediately a lot of the Zionists were trying to pin it on Iran, and now they are trying to like they are trying to tell the world that Iran is planning to assassinate the Syrian president, that Al Qaeda terrorist, whatever his name is. So
Right. Al Jamadi or whatever.
yeah, I don't
I
know
don't even
his
know.
name.
They switch
I just
around so much. It's hard to
it,
remember here.
yeah, I just know he's a savage, and he was involved in the massacre of Christians and Yazidis. And these magatards and these Christian Zionists don't care about that. And that's why, I
Hey,
have spoke.
the Zionists don't care about the genocide in Gaza. They don't
Yeah,
care.
see, I can, to an extent, I can understand the Jewish mindset. They have, a siege mentality. They've been indoctrinated, and they would have faced warfare at one time or the other. I mean, if you're a school kid, on the you would have, faced, like rockets, being fired at your school, and then you would grow up, hating the Arabs and so on. But I just don't understand, the Christian Zionists or the Christian nationalists, like who are stoking this, what do you call that, this feud. And
It wouldn't exist without their support. The Jews wouldn't have any
exactly.
support. So it
and
really
and
all the people don't understand Israel exists and Israel expresses its power because of Christian support from America. When the real
well, it's
war
not,
for Israel takes place in the United States, it plays out in the Middle East.
you
Without
know
support of the US, the man doesn't exist.
in fact, I wouldn't even call them Christians. Okay, I have more sympathies with the Jews because, like, they've been radicalized. But Saul of Tarsus, who later became Paul. He was radicalized. He was a murderer. He was against Christians. He didn't like Christ. So I can sympathize, and I can see God, like, God's grace working among some of them, and bringing them to repentance. But Christian Zionists, no. I mean, like, at every possible turn, they will turn a historical fact into a historical lie. To what purpose, I do not know. You know, and I mean, I can, surmise. I can, like, posit, a couple of hypotheses and so on. But these are just wolves in sheep's clothing. Now, yesterday while I was going for my nature walk, like, I was wondering, like, the Judaism of today can be just described as, like, a Talmudic religion. And, like, you can, use the word Talmudist, to those, to the adherents of this religion. But how do you describe Christian Zionists? You know, like, so I'll have to come up with, coin a phrase. And I was wondering, like, whether I could come up with a Latin portmanteau or a Greek portmanteau to
Right.
describe them, like, and so on. And believe me, I've spoken to right-wing Israelis, and sometimes they're brutally honest. But when it comes to Christian Zionists, no, there's no redeeming feature about them. Absolutely none.
How
And
about Christian dummies? Like it sounds like Christian dumb, but Christian DUMB.
Christian dumb. Well, the Bible says,
How about
if anyone.
Christoids? Christoids, like you're a robot, like you take on the name of
No,
Christ,
no,
but you're a droid.
no. You will have to remove the Christ in that word.
Okay, how about? Oh, that makes it hard. And it's
Yeah, yeah, I
uh,
will think of something.
yeah, I'll work on it.
And if
Somebody
I
in the
get
chat.
once I, like, I get my beauty sleep in the afternoon. Hopefully, I will get some beauty sleep in the afternoon. I'll come up with a term and I'll let you know.
You'll dream
And
about it. Yeah.
and it's going to be great. Like, I'm good at words. Especially especially in, when it comes to written words. Not so eloquent when it comes uh, to speak, when it comes to speech. Like, because you have a million thoughts, like, converging and competing in your head, and you need to itemize them and organize them. You can do that easily with writing and so on. So, like, I will come up with a term, trust me. you know and, like, and another reason why I speak against Zionism is because it is placing ordinary Jews and Christians in deep trouble. Yeah, not just deep trouble, that's an understatement, in peril. you know because there are a lot of
Interesting.
Jews, like, who are disgusted with what's happening in Israel, and there are a lot of Christians, who are not who are not supporting, this madness that's going on in the Middle East. And uh, and these people are placing both camps into deep trouble, in lethal danger. like I might, if I might say that. So yeah, to me, the biggest danger is it's not the Zionists, it's the Christian Zionists, as I see it. And believe me, I've had conversations with these people, and they will twist their propensity for generating lies is just unbelievable. Whereas, I've spoken with right wing Jews, who think, the whole Arab world should be nuked. But at least they'll admit, the corruption, the perversions, and all kinds of crazy things that happen in Israel, but not the Christian Zionists. Again, that's a term that
Right.
has to.
Right. They never
That,
admit it. Like Christians get spit on. They're a second-class citizen.
no, I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
where were these animals? Where were these animals when Christians were being slaughtered in Syria?
Right.
And now, they
Or
are.
yeah, I guess it would be in Nigeria too. Matthew, I gotta run. And we're at the hour mark. Where can people find your book and where can people find you?
Well, you can find it in Amazon, and
Okay.
I would appreciate it if you could, spread the word, because I'm still shadow banned by various big tech platforms, and I can assure readers that they will not be disappointed, and
This is the
and
perfect book for people who listen to my show. There's no question about it. It's got all the stuff in there. I didn't get
so,
to the end part, but the references are like references of people who've had talks on my show, like so many things.
yeah. So if you can, put the word out and get more people acquainted, with my novel, and there's going to be a follow-up novel with a somewhat similar theme. I would greatly appreciate it.
Great. Again, you can get it on Amazon. There's a Kindle version. There
And
is,
this,
at least in the States, paperback. It came out in November 2025. And again, the full title is The Electric Reckoning, and our guest is Mathew Maavak, Maavak. And I'll put a link to his Substack in the show notes. Thanks so much for your
oh,
time. Really
thanks so
appreciate it.
much. Yeah.